So this topic is very lengthy topic, है ना? Therefore, I have taken at first postmortem examination of birds only. और मुझे लगता है कि you have fair idea about postmortem of animals. आपने किए भी होंगे और most probably you have been taught about the postmortem of animals. And this topic, in my view, was less discussed with you people. Postmortem examination of birds. यहाँ तक मुझे याद है कुछ पोस्टमार्टम हम लोगों ने साथ में किया है विद फॉर बर्ड्स, कुछ वहाँ पे डिस्कशन हुआ था, लेकिन एज सच इन अ टेक्निकल वे वी हैव नॉट डिस्कस्ड दिस टॉपिक हाउ टू proceed for postmortem examination of birds. So therefore today we will talk in detail about the necropsy procedure of birds, and this topic is long and naturally it will take at least 2 classes. It will take at least 2 classes. So today I will basically deal with the necropsy procedure and the changes that you can see in different organs. अब बर्ड्स जब खोलते हैं तो एक ऑर्गन में क्या क्या चेंज हो सकता है, पॉसिबल चेंजेस दैट यू कैन ऑब्जर्व एंड द रीजन बिहाइंड दैट चेंजेस, उसका एक फेयर आइडिया मैं आपको दूंगा. In the next class I will deal with the lesions that you can see in different disease conditions. Say for example in Ranichet disease or in bird flu, what different changes in different organ we expect. That class will be taken in the next lecture. But today basically I will deal with the basics of necropsy procedure in birds, how to proceed for necropsy procedure, how will you observe and record the different changes in the organs of the bird. So all this topic will be dealt today. So let me start the topic and share the screen. So topic of today is postmortem examination of birds, and I have written it is a part 1. Naturally it will take 2 or even 3 class. So it is the first class regarding necropsy procedure of birds. So when you are asked to conduct postmortem of a bird, most possible is there can be 2 conditions. In one condition, you will get a bird, a died bird in your office or in your department, and you will be asked to conduct the postmortem and give the report. This is one condition. And in other condition, you may have the opportunity to visit the farm, poultry farm, where the mass suffering is happening, where the mass mortality or mass symptom is being observed. You may have the opportunity to visit the farm, and accordingly your postmortem proceed, how you will proceed for postmortem, what you should keep in your mind will vary. If it is a single bird, the case is different. If it is happening in a flock, in a farm, your view should be slightly different. Okay. So when you get a single bird in your office and asked to conduct postmortem, so you will conduct it, and your main emphasis will be on the death, the cause of death, how the death has occurred. But if it is with the flock, you have to do something else. उसमें आपको कुछ ज्यादा करना पड़ेगा. क्या? You have to ascertain the reasons behind the death. ये कैसे हो रहा है death, ये कहाँ से आ रहा है etiological agent, how to remove it. एक फ्लॉक में वो सारी चीजें देखने होंगी. प्लस जो इनिशियल रिक्वायरमेंट होता है फॉर ए पोस्टमार्टम एग्जामिनेशन, that is most important is the history. That history will also vary. All these things I will try to discuss in our topic point by point. So first of all, for a proper diagnosis of poultry disease, 3 important factors are most important. For any poultry disease diagnosis, you must consider 3 important factors. First is a systemic plan for examining the bird's body. That is both external and internal examination of the carcass. That is postmortem examination. You have to examine in a very systemic way, both external and internal body parts. Next, you must have a good knowledge of the different organs and body structure of the bird. If you don't have the knowledge of normal structure of different organs, how can you identify the changes, the lesions in the different organs? So you must have a good knowledge of identifying the different organs. And the third is you should have the knowledge of the changes, the different changes that you can see in different conditions, and accordingly you have to record all the changes. So these three things are most important. First is a good postmortem procedure, a knowledge of body organs, and different changes, and how can you correlate these changes with the disease. So these three things are most important while doing postmortem of a bird. Next is getting a diagnosis is as quickly as possible is of great importance. Why? आपको जो फ्लॉक ऑनर होते हैं, जो बर्ड ऑनर होते हैं, जिसके पास बहुत स्ट्रेंथ में जिसने बर्ड को मैनेज कर रखा है, वो चाहता है कि डायग्नोसिस एज क्विक एज पॉसिबल जल्द हो, ताकि वो जल्द ही प्लान कर सके ट्रीटमेंट प्रोसीजर भी, प्रिवेंटिव प्रोसीजर भी और पॉलिसी मेकिंग भी कर सके. इसलिए डायग्नोसिस दो तरह के होता है बेसिकली, ऑन स्पॉट डायग्नोसिस और एक होता है लेबोरेटरी डायग्नोसिस. So on spot diagnosis, you can give at least the tentative diagnosis so that the owner can frame the preventive measures, the treatment measures, and after getting confirmatory diagnosis, it can accordingly change its different policies. So on spot, you must give a tentative diagnosis as early as possible. Next is, as I was saying, two categories. During investigation, there are two basic problems. First is postmortem based or laboratory finding. कुछ लोगों की आवाज आ रही है, उसको आप बंद कीजिए, थोड़ा बैकग्राउंड से आवाज आ रहा है. So you have to do postmortem diagnosis. You have to collect the sample and send at laboratory for further diagnosis. One thing is this, and another thing is that it is the in-depth problem. You have to study in depth. It is a thorough investigation where you don't only find the cause of death but underlying reason of an infectious disease. And it is a multifactorial condition. It is usually has to determine the origin of the disease. एक बर्ड का डेथ और उसका डायग्नोसिस इज अनदर थिंग, और उसके डेथ से सारे फ्लॉक्स को बचाना, कैसे फ्रेम करे बचाना, दैट इज ए डिफरेंट थिंग. सो एक तो होता है ऑन स्पॉट एक बर्ड का आपने पीएम किया और उसका डायग्नोसिस दे दिया, और सेकेंड इज इन डेप्थ प्रॉब्लम. पूरी तरह से उसको जानिए कि कहाँ से पहुंच रहा है कंडीशन, इसको कैसे रोका जा सकता है. तो दो तरीके का इन्वेस्टिगेशन आपको करना होता है. सेकेंड थिंग मैं आपको यहाँ पे जोड़ दूं, if you are asked to conduct a postmortem at a farm, and when you visit at the farm, you are given dead birds for conducting postmortem. At this condition, you may ask the owner to provide you those birds also which have not died but are showing advanced symptoms, and also those birds in which the symptom is not yet most prominent. So you can do postmortem of even the live birds. You have to sacrifice even the live birds showing less symptom or prominent symptoms other than the dead birds. If you conduct the postmortem of all these three types of birds, you will be able to get most important lesions which might have been missing in some of the cases. So always insist and ask the owner to provide you birds, ailing birds also, other than the dead birds. While investigation of a disease condition, you must go through the case history. If it is single bird, it will be case history. If there is mass mortality in a farm, it will be flock history. Then you have to conduct postmortem examination, and then you have to take the help of laboratory investigation. If you are doing these three conditions, then only you are able to go in address the in-depth problem of the farm. And the best approach to begin investigation is with the case history or flock history. Always insist the owner, it is your right to get the history of the case. Regarding flock history, it must be considered as disease of flock rather than an individual disease. इसका मतलब जैसे मैं आपसे कह रहा था, कोई बर्ड एक मर जाता है, तो in a flock of thousands of birds, death of one bird does not mean much from economic point of view. मगर ये जो बर्ड मरा है, that has lesions in coded form. If you can decode that lesions, आप ये समझ जाओ कि ये मरे हुए बर्ड हमें क्या मैसेज देना चाह रहे हैं, so that you can prevent the other birds of the flock. So that is the real आपका वो रियल होगा sacrifice उस बर्ड का जिसने बलिदान दिया है अपने मरने के बाद, कि after his death you can protect the other birds of the farm. So as a veterinarian you have to decode those lesions in the form of the probable disease. जो भी changes आप देखते हैं एक birds में, ऐसा नहीं है कि एक बर्ड मर गया it is not a big problem. Death of individual birds indicate a very serious problem, and it also gives you all the possibilities. If you can decode those changes, that can be help in preventing the further death. So flock history is must. During taking history, you ask for the mortality rate, mortality pattern. You ask about the egg production, egg quality, hatching problems. Observe the farmhouse. You move, wander in the farmhouse and see the different managemental condition of the farm, and also ask some questions with the peoples involved in the farm. And during a complete flock history, you should note the name and address of the owner, number of birds in the flock, breed, strain, and age of the birds. Regarding managemental information, you should have a fair idea about the vaccination history, feeding program, type of operation, hatchery source, and next information on the illness of the birds. That is the date of illness, severity of the birds affected, number of bird affected, the number of bird died, any sort of treatment given, any sort of previous disease in the flock. That all has to be noted in the flock history. Here is a performer. You can go through how a flock history record is being made. You go through this. And now I will come to the basic topic. That is the first point. That is a systemic plan for examination of the bird's body, which is better called as necropsy examination or postmortem examination. So let us introduce the topic. So it is an important tool. EM examination is an important tool to establish the cause of death and the different contributing factors leading to the death of the birds. Next, you must use the data and the results obtained by postmortem examination for treatment and prevention. It is also used in making policies for further preventions. And one thing you must note that the basic principle in necropsy examination for all animals or birds are almost same. But due to some anatomical and physiological difference in birds, we have to study necropsy examination in birds as a separate topic. However, the basic principles remains the same. Also, in different species of birds, you should have a slight knowledge about their anatomical differences to have a good record. Next, you will need some materials, some chemicals during the necropsy procedure. This can be scissors, like blunt scissors, sharp scissors, curved scissors, and different types of knives, blades, bone cutter, saw, forceps. You will need different types of trays. You may need magnifying lenses. You may need some spit lamp, cotton swabs, containers for collecting the samples, fixatives like 10% formalins, your saturated salt solution. You should have a slide, you should have a cover slip. These are some essential requirement. Apron, you should have gloves. Okay. And now the technical thing, that is how to conduct the necropsy procedure. So first of all, note the identification of the bird. You see the metallic tag, which is usually found in the legs or the wings of the bird. So note the identification number, any color mark, age, sex, breed, nutritional status. Also check the rigor mortis of the bird. Next, you have to soak the bird, the carcass, in water. First of all, soak the carcass in water and place it on the necropsy table. So, when you place it on the table, first of all, examine externally by seeing every part of the body, by stretching the feathers, see the presence of any ectoparasites, any injury, or any other changes. Next, lay the birds on its back with wings and legs extended, and And another thing you have to do, you have to adduct the legs and wings. For proper examination, you have to abduct the legs by cutting the skin between the legs and the abdomen. And you may even break the joints so that a free examination can be possible. After this, you cut the skin at the point between the keel bone, that is the sternum, and vent. You have to give a incision and you have to peel off the skin over the abdomen and legs. When you have peeled off the skin, you examine the muscles, particularly muscles of the thighs and sternum. Next, you cut open the abdomen by giving a incision transversely between the keel and the vent. Remove the sternum by cutting the paired bones. After this, the mouth is opened and incision is given through the pharynx, and the esophagus and the crop is cut open. After then, remove the stomach and the whole intestine in one piece, cutting just above the esophagus and just below the cloaca. Give incision just anterior to the proventriculus and just above the cloaca, and remove the whole stomach and intestine in one piece for examination. Next, remove the different visceral organs like liver, spleen, kidney, and examine them superficially. After superficial examination on the surface of the different visceral organs, you may incise the organs to see the cut interior changes. After this, you open the nasal cavity by cutting the beak transversely near its attachment to the skin, and with the help of a pointed scissor, incise through the opening on either side to expose the infraorbital sinus. Infraorbital sinus gives a fair idea about sinusitis. So you must see the infraorbital sinus while conducting postmortem examination. Next, open the trachea. After this, you have to extract out the lungs from the thoracic wall. Expose the brachial plexus and sciatic nerves. It is important in case of some, uh, particularly this Marek's disease. You have to examine the brachial plexus and sciatic plexus. Uh, so you have to expose this. If you remember, some of you might have attended the class. I have demonstrated the brachial plexus and sciatic nerves during postmortem of birds. Now you open the major joints and examine thoroughly. You have to open the brain also and examine the brain. Now you record the changes in every organ very systemic wise and record these lesions, make a tentative diagnosis, and provide a postmortem report to the owner. So a complete postmortem report performer I have given you. You have to note all the changes, and accordingly you have to write different changes in these organs, and finally you have to give a final diagnosis that may be either tentative or may be confirmatory. It depends on the changes that you have seen in the different organs. So these are some basic organ locations. If you open a bird, you can see there is a heart, there is the location of thyroid, it is the trachea rings is being shown. Beside the trachea, there is esophagus, and in the abdominal cavity, you can see large liver. Just below to the liver, you can see the proventriculus. In this photograph, you can also see uh, the gizzard, intestine. So here is the crop. So you must have fair knowledge of these things, not going in much detail. So in this diagram, you can see this is a brachial plexus that has been indicated by the forceps. This is the brachial plexus in the thigh of the bird. And in this diagram, this is the sciatic plexus. Here it is sciatic plexus, and here it is sciatic nerve. Here it is sciatic nerve, here it is sciatic plexus. And here is how infraorbital sinus appears after cutting the part. This is the infraorbital sinus in a bird, and this is the, here you can see this is the proventriculus, and this is the gizzard. You know these things. Moving forward, we have to first start with the external examination. So first of all, see the general body condition of the bird. The general body condition of the bird. It may be emaciated or it may be dehydrated. If it is emaciated or dehydrated, the possible reason can be off-feed, some nutritional deficiencies, some chronic enteritis, or some chronic disease like tuberculosis. There can be paralysis of leg, wings, or neck. So the different reasons behind this may be the clostridial infection, that is clostridial toxins, botulism, Maye's disease, arthritis, aflatoxin poisoning. There can be avian encephalitis. It can be case of Rannicke disease also. So this is the photograph showing a dehydrated, emaciated carcass. Here you can see the paralysis of the legs. Uh, it indicates Maye's disease. You can see the paralysis in the neck. It is in between the two legs near to the breast. It is a picture denoting the avian encephalomyelitis. This picture, twisting of the neck, it is a case of Rannicke disease. You can see in case of Rannicke, this type of twisting in the neck. After general body condition, you observe the feathers. There can be loss of the feathers. There can be deposits at the base of the feathers. The wings can be moist. If there is loss of the feathers, the possible reason may be the physiological molting. It may be the lice infestation or nutritional deficiencies like methionine. If there is severe deposition at the base of the feathers, it may be due to eggs of lice or mites. And if the base of the wings, underside of the wings is basically moist with the case of infectious coryza. In this photograph, you can see the loss of feathers, different possible. And here it is hyperpigmented wings basically. Next, you have to observe the skin. If the skin appears pale, it is a case of anemia or some nutritional deficiencies. If there is nodules, particularly in the legs, it is a case of Marek's disease. If nodules are found over the vent near the cloaca, it may be the case of some parasitic infestation. If the skin is showing necrosis, edema, it can be case of necrotic dermatitis that is due to Clostridial or Staphylococcus. It may be due to some vitamin deficiency. If the skin is purple or darkened, it is usually due to erysipelas or fall cholera. If there is crustation on the skin, it may be due to scab formation or gangrenous dermatitis. These gangrenous dermatitis, necrotic dermatitis are caused by Clostridial or Staphylococcal infection. The skin can be green or gangrenous, which is usually due in the case of gangrenous dermatitis or due to hemorrhage or arthritis. In this diagram, you can see it is a case of Maye's disease, nodule formation over the skin. And in this side, you can see nodule formation on the legs. Here, they are nodule formation. It is a clear-cut case of Marek's disease. If you can see nodules on the legs. Here you can see the purplish discoloration of the skin. Here it is gangrenous green discoloration of the skin. So these changes you can see in different cases of bird. Now you examine the head. Head can be swollen and appear fluffy. If the head is swollen and fluffy, as it is shown in this diagram, it may be case of infectious coryza. It may be due to some injury. It may be due to Rannicke disease, or it may be case of bird flu. The comb. If there is a scab, nodule formation, a scab, like in this, as shown in this picture, it will be a case of fallpox. And if you appear velvety, bran-like deposition, white powdery-like deposition, as appearing in this case, it will be case of fungal infection that is called as FAVS. Am I audible? आप सुन तो रहे हो? Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
यहाँ तक प्रॉब्लम है तो कुछ डिस्कस कर लीजिए. If you have any problem, you can discuss. Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So moving forward, now we'll talk about eyes, changes in the eyes. So what can be the possible change in the eyes? Eyes can be watery, there can be blindness of the eye can be inflamed, there can be cataract, there can be crust at the corners of the eye, and the pupil can be can appear irregular. So if it is watery, the most probable cause can be the infectious coryza. And if it is the blindness, it can be case of fowlpox, that is ocular form of the fowlpox. It can be case of aspergillosis, or it can be the case of salmonella infection. So this diagram is showing the blindness. And if it is conjunctivitis and the eye is appearing very reddened, it is usually due to ammonia burn. So in a litter, if in a litter farming, if you do not remove the litter, for a long time, it will lead to ammonia production and it can cause burning sensation in the eye. Other than this, some disease like Ranicate disease or deficiency of vitamin A may cause reddening of the eye. Cataract is developed in case of avian encephalomyelitis or epidemic tumor, and there can be crushed due to some deficiency of vitamin A particularly, and particularly these people appears irregular in case of Marek's disease. So this is the condition of irregular people, and there can be blindness. It indicates the case of Marek's disease. This is the blindness probably due to we see cataract formation in case of avian encephalomyelitis. I have about 9 minutes time. खत्म हो जाएगा तो मैं आपको 15-20 मिनट के लिए दोबारा जोड़ूंगा. Okay. Next, after eye, we examine the subcutaneous tissue. So there can be air inside the skin. When you will feel the skin, you will see that there is airy skin, fluffy skin. So it can be due to some rupture in the air sac, some injury, or some infection of the skin. In subcutaneous tissue, there can be some nodules, a small size nodules that is most probably due to mite infestation. There can be excessive fluid that we call as anasarca. So it can be case of salt poisoning, edema, or vitamin E deficiency basically. Even in case of anemia, you can see excessive fluid in the subcutaneous area of bird. When you examine the ribs, the most important finding you can see is beaded appearance at the costochondral junction. As you can see in this diagram, at the costochondral junction, there is beaded appearance. It indicates rickets that is due to deficiency of vitamin D, phosphorus, calcium deficiency. So after ribs, subcutaneous tissue, you examine the muscles. If the muscles is congested, then it is a case of septicemia, or it might have been improperly bled during the sacrifice. If there is hemorrhage in the muscles, we know most important is infectious bursar disease. In IBD, there is hemorrhage in the thigh muscles particularly. But it can also be in case of mycotoxicosis, erysipelas poisoning, IBH, inclusion body hepatitis due to some injury. If the muscles appears dehydrated, it lack of water. In case of coccidiosis, also there is dehydration of muscles, and tumors in the muscles indicates Marek's disease. Here you can see hemorrhages on the thigh muscles and pinpoint hemorrhages on the external muscles also. So this is a case of IBD. And in this diagram, you can see a small nodule formation over the muscles. So it is a case of Marek's disease. And now we'll talk about the changes in the legs. If the legs are bent, it is a case of rickets, most common. If the bone is thickened and enlarged, it is a case of liquid leukosis, that is osteopetrosis. Uh, it can also be due to zinc deficiency. If there is swelling in the joint, it can be a case of infectious synovitis, salmonella infection, or arthritis, staphylococcus infection. Tendon and hook can be displaced in case of parosis, that is due to choline or in case of choline or manganese deficiency. Next, we'll see internal examination, the internal organs. So first of all, talking about trachea, what can be there? The whole trachea can be filled with clotted blood. If it is the case, like it is showing in this diagram, it will be the case of infectious laryngotracheitis. The whole trachea will be filled with clotted blood. If there is blood but not clotted and not severe bleeding, it can be case of Ranicate disease, like you can see in this diagram. Okay. If there is also mucus along with blood, it will be a case of CRD, chronic respiratory disease. Different nodule formation in the trachea, particularly in the upper part of the trachea, it will indicate smallpox. In case of smallpox, there is nodules on the upper part of the trachea. And in case of adenovirus infection, the trachea will be inflamed. This is the diagram showing the what in the case of smallpox. This is the case of ILT, infectious laryngotracheitis. These changes you can see in CRD and even in the bird flu or CRD or Ranicate disease. Now, talking about air sacs, the air sac can be foamy foamy, purulent, or thickened. In case of polybacillosis, CRD, Newcastle's disease, and fall corner. It can be nodules. There you can see, you can observe nodules, small size nodules. It will be a case of fungus infection, particularly aspergillosis. If it is foamy and froth is found in the air sac, it is a case of infectious bronchitis. Some nodules can also be formed in case of air sac mite or some other air sac disease or infectious coryza. Air sac, air sac appears cloudy in case of laryngotracheitis, in case of influenza or Newcastle's disease. Just 4 minutes रुक जाइए उसके बाद हो जाएगा ना ठीक है so cloudy appearance appear in the case of laryngotracheitis when influenza and Raniket disease. And see the lungs, a small nodule formation, as you can see in this diagram, a small miliary nodule formation. It indicate the case of aspergillosis. If it is consolidated, red, hardened, naturally it will be case of pneumonia. Now examine the crop. Now examine the crop. If in the crop there is white cheesy-like growth, it is a case of fungal infection that is called as moniliasis. In this diagram, you can see here. In this diagram you can see the change basically in the mouth oral cavity, but this further extend in the crop. So this white cheese-like growth will found in the crop. In case of moniliasis, if the crop is very dry or slightly moist, it is a case of dehydration, acute loss of water. If the crop is distended with fluid, it is a case of drop crop or featherating. If the lining of the crop is highly thickened, it means there is the infestation of Capillaria parasite roundworm. Regarding proventriculus, most important, if it is swollen and enlarged, it will be a case of necrotic enteritis that is due to Clostridia or Staphylococcus infection. But if there is hemorrhage, it can be the case of bird flu, it can be the case of Raniket disease, or it can be the case of spiropitosis. In case of Raniket disease, the hemorrhage will be in the tip of the proventricular gland. In case of spiropitosis, the hemorrhage will be in between the gland, linear hemorrhages. And in case of bird flu, the hemorrhage can even seen on the serosal surface of the proventricular gland. So this is a case of, this diagram is a case of Raniket disease, Newcastle disease. You can see pinpoint hemorrhage on the tip of the gland. But this is a case of bird flu. Here you can see diffused hemorrhages, not on the tip of the gland, but diffuse hemorrhages. So it was a case of bird flu. Regarding gizzard, if you see excessive fiber, grit or litter in the gizzard, it is a case of infection. If there is erosion in the lining of the gizzard, it can be case of necrotic enteritis, some non-specific enteritis. It is normally in the young birds and when they are given fed with the fish meal. If the muscle of the gizzard is degenerated, it is usually found in the case of selenium deficiency. And if you try to peel off the filterized layer of the gizzard and you are not even successfully peeling the lining of the gizzard, it indicates necrotic enteritis. So this is the gizzard and this is the keratinous layer of the gizzard. If it is usually peeled off when you try it with a force, but if you cannot peel it off, it will be a case of necrotic enteritis. Next to this is the intestine. So many changes you can see in the intestine, like presence of some roundworms, like thickening of the wall. There can be different types of hemorrhages. There can be ulcerations. There can be different types of contents. Accordingly, the regions will vary. So most common presence of Escherichia in the intestine you might have seen during the postmortem. If the intestinal wall is very thickened and mucus, it can be a case of Capillaria worms. However, you can see the capillary in the intestine at this time. And if there is hemorrhages, different type of hemorrhages, pinpoint, linear hemorrhages, widespread hemorrhages in the whole part of the intestine, it can be a case of different type of coccidia, salmonella infection, or even Raniket disease. Widespread hemorrhages in the intestine. If it is a case of Clostridia, there will be blotchy hemorrhage. Blotchy hemorrhage means along with the hemorrhage there will be a layer, a deposition of the layer. So it will be a case of Clostridia. And if the hemorrhage, if the intestine appears red and white dots, it will be a case of a different type of Eimeria, that is Eimeria nicatrix. So now it will be auto cut. I will join you for next 15 minutes So seconds are being remaining. If there is ulceration, it will be a case of ulcerative enteritis. And if the intestine is collapsed and glued together, it indicates heat stroke and acute lack of water. If there will be small white bodies, it will be a case of different type of coccidia, that is Amelia acerulina. Green contents in the intestine indicates low feed intake and bile. And second, if the duodenum appears red and velvety, it is usually normal. A duodenum should be